Welcome to our lesson about configurations. What exactly is a configuration? Basically, it's a variation of a part. For example, let's say in one version of a part you want to apply a copper material. In another version you want to apply a steel material. Or let's say you want a simplified version of a part where some features are suppressed and other features are simplified. One configuration can display the part as welded, and a second configuration can display the part as machined. By using configurations, you can control a number of parameters such as dimensions, tolerance, sketch relations, sketch planes, color, the whole wizard, and so on. As you grow familiar with using configurations, you'll learn to understand what a powerful functionality this is in SOLIDWORKS. Let's begin by creating a configuration. I'll go to the Configuration Manager tab. Here's the default configuration. This was created automatically by SOLIDWORKS when you created a part document. At least one configuration has to exist. If you want to create a new configuration, simply right-click at the part level and select Add Configuration. First thing to do is specify the configuration name. We give it a unique name. Let's say config01, and a description as well. We can add some comments if needed. For the bill of materials options, we can display document name, the configuration name, or use a custom name that we specify. Let's take a look at the advanced options. We've got two checkboxes here to learn about. The first is the Suppress Features option. This works like this. If in other configurations new features are created, they're going to be suppressed in this configuration. This second checkbox, we can opt to use a specific color in this new configuration. Let's leave Suppress Features checked for this configuration. And let's click OK. Let's create another configuration. Right-click, Add Configuration. Let's give it a unique name. Let's say config02. Now for this configuration, I'm going to uncheck the Suppress Features option. Click OK. We can also create a derived configuration. Select a configuration and right-click on it. Add Derived Configuration. Let's give it a unique and descriptive name. And click OK. And our derived configuration appears in the tree under the default configuration. This is our active configuration, as all other configurations are grayed out. A derived configuration is connected to its parent configuration. It maintains the same values and properties as the parent configuration. But there is a way to break this link for specific properties, and we're going to learn how to do that in this lesson. To delete a configuration, we're not able to delete the active configuration. Right-click. There's no delete option here. Before we can delete this configuration, we're going to need to make another configuration, the active configuration. Now let's delete our configuration. Right-click. Select Delete. It's got the red X icon next to it. Let's confirm that delete. To change a configuration properties, simply right-click and select Properties. Let's cancel out of the Property Manager, and now we're back in the default configuration. Let's add a fillet to our part. Let's select the four corners. Oops, I selected a face by accident. Let me right-click and delete that selection. This corner and this edge here. For our fillet radius, 10 millimeters is fine, and let's click OK. Now let's go to the Configuration tab. To change between configurations, just double-click, or you can right-click and select Show Configuration. Notice now that the Configuration 1 doesn't have a fillet. Configuration 2 does. Let's go to Configuration 1. Here's Fillet 2, the feature we just created, but it is suppressed here. Let's go modify the properties for Configuration 2. And let's check the Suppress Features option for the second configuration. Now let's take a look at the relation between the parent and the derived configuration. Type a unique name and click OK. Now if I change the diameter of the hole, let's say, make it 40 millimeters. OK. Click Update. And let's go to the child configuration. You see that the hole diameter has changed here also. Now the derived configuration is active. Let's change the hole diameter to, let's say, 10 millimeters. Now before I click Accept, I'm going to choose this configuration and click OK. SOLIDWORKS prompts me for an update. Now I've explicitly changed the diameter of the hole for the parent configuration. Let's return to the parent configuration. If I change the hole diameter here to, let's say, 30 millimeters, and then I switch back to the derived configuration, here the hole stays the same. Now we've got the option to link to the parent configuration. Let's update. And now the hole diameter is linked back to the parent configuration. Let's close our part now. Save, yes. Let's reopen it. Now when I select the part, we have the option to select the desired configuration as well as the display state. Click Open. Now I'm going to suppress the chamfers and fillets in my default configuration. I can Shift select them, then right-click, Suppress. Or I can go to the Edit menu and select Suppress. And then I select which configuration. This, all, or specified configurations. Let's use the default configuration and click OK. Now if we switch or change configurations, we can see in another configuration the chamfer and fillets are unsuppressed. Let's return to the default configuration. I'm going to change the sketch plane of plane 1. Right-click, Edit Sketch Plane. Let's use the front plane. Once again, I can select this configuration, all configurations, or specific configurations. Let's apply our change to this configuration and click OK. If we go back to the Configuration Manager tab, we can see the position of the part in the other configuration is unchanged. Now let's talk about how to create configuration-specific custom properties. You need to go to the Configuration-Specific tab and select the configuration. Let's say Default, Part Number, Text, for value let's say 01. And for configuration 2, part number, text, and let's say 02. Tab, and click OK. Now let's see how to change the color for specified configurations. Let's right-click, go to Appearances, and let's work at the face level. Now let's change the color for this face. Let's say to red. Scroll down the Property Manager. Under Display State, we can select this display state, all display states, or a specific display state. Go with this display state and click OK. Notice that under Display States, we have a display state and the link to the display state is checked. Let's switch configurations. As we see here, the top face didn't change color. If I uncheck Link Display States to Configurations, and then I switch to Display State 2, now we're able to preview this display state for this configuration. Let's link the display states to the configuration. Next, let's learn how to apply different materials to different configurations. We'll make Default active. Now let's go to the Feature Manager tab. We can right-click on Material and select Edit Material. Or we can choose one of my favorite materials from down below in this contextual menu. I'm going to use a cast alloy steel Click Update if needed. Another way to apply the material, right-click, select Configure Material. You see that the material has been applied to the derived and default configurations. Let's apply material to configurations 1 and 2. Let's say copper for configuration 1. And for configuration 2, we'll use, let's browse for more. Let's use a 1020 steel. Apply and close. And let's apply here as well. And save this table. We'll give it a name. Let's call it Material. And then click the Save icon. And OK. Now let's go to the Configuration Manager. Looks like the material selections didn't register, but the table we created is right here. Let's expand that. Double-click on it to launch it. SOLIDWORKS processes our request. As we see, for configurations 1 and 2, the material is not specified, so let's do that now. Copper. And maybe rubber for configuration 2. Apply and OK. And now the material registers. We can switch configurations and see how the part looks with different materials. Let's go to the Evaluate tab and select the Mass Properties tool. For the steel configuration, our mass is about 1 kilogram. Let's close the Mass Properties window. We'll switch to the rubber configuration. Activate the Mass Properties tool again, and the mass is about 120 grams. Let's close this window and check on the copper configuration, Mass Properties. It's pretty close to the steel configuration. However, remember, our hole diameter is different in this configuration. Let's close the Mass Properties dialog window and switch back to the default configuration. I want to insert one more table here. Let's say for extruded cuts. Right-click on Cut Extrude 1 and select Configure Feature. First, we can choose to suppress or unsuppress this feature in the specific configuration. Let's suppress it for configuration 2. Apply and OK. And let's expand Cut Extrude 1. Right-click on Sketch 2, Configure Feature. Here is a Suppress option. If I suppress a sketch, of course, the extruded cut feature will automatically become suppressed since the cut can't exist without the supporting sketch. Let's modify the dimension D1 here. I'm going to change it, let's say, to 50 millimeters for configuration 1. And let's say 10 millimeters for the default configuration. Let's name this table Hole D. And let's save it now. Click on the Save icon. OK. Now we've got a second table here. Let's cancel out. As you see, configurations are a very powerful functionality of SOLIDWORKS and have got many different uses. And this concludes our lesson about configurations.